Excel has a number of financial functions, well over 50 of them. Some of them are quite sophisticated. A relatively easy to use function is one called PMT. And once you see it, you know why it's widely used in loans, banking, finance, mortgage industry. We need to calculate, for example, the payback month by month on a car loan or a home loan. In cell G2, I want to use the PMT function to see how much it's going to cost me every month as I pay back this loan of $25,000 at a 3.75% annual interest over a 4-year period, 48 months, equal PMT, left parenthesis, the rate 3.75%. You could type it a couple different ways, 3.75% being the most obvious. We need to divide this by 12 since the payment is a monthly payment, and 3.75 is the annual interest. So divide that by 12, comma, NPER, the pop-up tip below says, the number of periods of the loan. If it's 4 years, we want to put in either 48 months, or we could put in 4*12, same calculation, same effect, comma, and how much are we borrowing here? $25,000. Don't put a comma after the 25. The monthly payment, principal and interest included, is $561.68. Now, that is expressed as a negative number. It is, you could say, negative cash flow, or paying this out every month. If you want to work with this number in other formulas within the worksheet or in nearby worksheets, you probably will find it easier if this number is a positive number. So, double-clicking on this cell, we could make it appear positive by putting a minus right in front of the PMT or right in front of the 25,000. Either way, so it looks like that. Now, over here in row 10, I've got the same numbers set up here, but also another situation here. Maybe we want to borrow $300,000 for a house, pay it off over 360 months. Interest rate maybe is 4%. And this is what we just did manually up above. When you have the data actually within cells, it's easier to adjust your formula to consider some other options, maybe a slightly different interest rate. Maybe you're going to change the term. Maybe you're going to borrow more or less. So let's set up this PMT function right here with the data above. Here's the rate, /12, comma, 48 months, cell B7, comma, and the amount borrowed, let's put in a leading minus if we want that result to be a positive entry. We're going to be seeing the same number we saw before. 561.68. As we drag this to the right, the same kind of calculation will work on the cells above. So if we were borrowing $300,000 and paying it off over 360 months, and the yearly interest rate is 4%, our monthly payment, principal and interest only, is $1,432. If we wanted to explore how much this might be if it were a 15-year loan, that's $180. A lot of times people are surprised at this. It's not going to double that at all. In fact, not even close. Our monthly payment on a 15-year loan, same amount, same interest rate, is $2,200. It certainly wasn't double of that $1,400 number that we saw. So it's interesting to play with these numbers sometimes. You might even consider creating a grid, something like what we see here. In other words, here are different interest rates that either you're considering or possibly might be available. Here are different amounts of money that you possibly could be borrowing. And you can easily change these numbers to be a little bit tighter possibly. And let's say this is the term that you're looking at. We can highlight all these cells ahead of time and simply create the entry at once. Equal PMT. Now you do have to have some familiarity with absolute and relative addressing. Let's begin with the interest rate. For the moment, I'm clicking cell F5, but since we might be referring to other columns, I want to make this a relative address. Press Command-T until we see the $ in front of the 5. That's the row number, but not in front of F. There it is. We need to divide that by 12, comma. The period is 360 months. That's never going to change in this model here. So here we press Command-T and leave it as an absolute address completely. Comma. The amount we're borrowing, let's put in that leading minus again. And for this row only, it's going to come out of E6. But since we're copying it into other cells here, we want to make sure that column reference stays the same. Not the row reference, but the column reference. So press Command-T so that we see a $ in front of the E, but not in front of the 6. And as I press Control Return, not Return, we will have answers for all of these cells. And possibly you could format them with the pennies or without. Right now they're not showing the pennies, but we could, on the Home tab in the number group here, increase the decimals if we wished. Sometimes that's useful, sometimes not. To make it less crowded, move it to the right. And we could certainly put in dollar signs, although that probably would make it less crowded too. And it is important to say here, these are not the full monthly payments. These are the principal and interest payments that you make each month. We've got taxes and insurance. You could possibly change the model to include those too, just by adding them onto the PMT formula. So a powerful tool, relatively easy to use. You don't have to understand the math or the underlying formula. If you ever happen to see it, you might be somewhat appalled, unless you're a math major or have a strong interest in that sort of thing. But this is easy to use, as we've seen in the example here, the PMT function.